through these two, then we'll go through the answers to SOL A3. I'll tell you which one is next, and then we will continue our notes from last class. Anyone want to write the system they found? So you did have to determine or define two variables, whatever variables you use. I wouldn't use O because it could be mistaken for a 0. Did you want to?
No, I found it.
Okay.
Yeah. I still don't have these.
That's fine. X and Y always works. If I use A and R, that would be good. It's not. So this would be number of apples and number of oranges. And then your two equations, you have 4 numbers. So anytime you're given only 4, you're going to have 2 sets of totals. The 20 and the 2260 are those two totals. Money goes with money. So 125A plus 0.95R equals 2260. And then if we know total pieces of fruit, if we add the number of each fruit, you would get 20. So those should have been the 2 equations for that. If you solved it, that's great. You didn't need to do that for this one. Questions on that? Jaden, did you have a question? No. Otis?
So that's literally.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So if you solved it, that's fine.
Oh, okay. I was in
It's
the
just
mindset
extra
that I
practice.
did have to solve
No.
it. Okay.
Because inside Reddit system that you
Just
used
in-
to find it, it didn't say
Solve.
how many
Okay.
or determine the amount. But 2 we actually do need to solve. So let's do the same thing, set up our equations. What did we use for variables here? A and S, okay. Where A represents what? What about the adults of it? Number of. And then, again, we're given 4 numbers, so we would have to set up those equations. Equals 238, equals 125. Okay. So then money goes with money, 675A plus 3.5 or 0.50S. And then S plus A, or A plus S. You could have solved this using any of the methods. I'm just going to show you how you would solve it graphing on decimals. I'm going to change these variables to X and Y. I'm not going to rewrite them, but I am going to type them in just like that. So X plus Y equals 238. And then I already forgot this number, 625. 75, thank you. And 350. 1 equals 1, 2, what was it? 1, 2, 5, 2, 0.42. You won't see anything because this is huge, so zoom out. 129, 109. Y. So then number of adult tickets would be 129, number of student tickets would be 109. Are those the numbers we got? Do we have questions on that? Yeah. Angie, before you go, let me give you this. So we're going to go through SOL A3. This is something you have to know how to do, unless it's a multiple choice question where you could put them in and see what matches. You'll have to know how to do these. So if you did not try these, it would be in your best interest to go back and practice these after you write down the answers. You can write down the work and the answers, or just the answers, and go back and rewatch the video. This video. So number one, I'm just going to say the answer and then talk through it. 12x to the third times the square root of 3. So depending on your method, remember that there are two. You can find the highest perfect square that goes into this number, and 144 is that. Think about your exponents as you have a perfect square. 2 goes into 6 3 times with nothing left over. And then anything still inside the square root goes together. Anything not in the square root goes outside. The other method would be factoring 432 all the way down. Finding all the factors until you can't factor anymore. And then for your variables, listing it out. So x to the 6 would be 6 x's multiplied together. And you would be finding pairs for numbers and variables. So how you do that is up to you. Number 2, answer was 4x to the 5th, y to the 8th times the square root of y. Three was nice because it was just a number that happened to be a perfect cube. So if you put that in and checked it, it was 15. Four was also just a number, but with your cube roots, either finding the highest perfect cube that goes into it that you can divide by it, or listing out the factors until you can't list out any other factors and finding groups of 3. So 4 was 2 times the cube root of 2, not 2 to the third power times the square root, the other one. And then 5 was 6x to the 4th times the square root of 3x. Before we do 6 through 9 and then 10, do we have questions on 1 through 5? If you still need these, I'll scroll back down here in a second. So starting with 6, because it has a negative, that negative has to go on the outside, and then the rest of the process is the same. And after we go through this page, I'll show you how you could double check them in Desmos just in case you forgot. But your final answer would be negative 2 times the cube root of positive 4, sorry. And the parentheses I'm putting in there are not necessary, but if you want to separate the square or cube root from everything else, you can do that. 7 was 5x to the 6, y to the 7 times the square root of 2y. Eight was negative 4 times the cube root of 2. And then 9 was 4x to the 4th, y to the 8th times the square root of 3. Any questions on any of those? So I'm going to pick one perfect square and one cube root, and then if you want to see others, you can do that. So let's say I chose 4 and what's 7. So since 4 is just numbers, if you put in the original, it'll give you decimals. If you put in your answer, your decimals should match. If they don't, something's off. But with 7, just like the exponent, you would have to put your x and y in as capital letters, make them sliders, change the numbers to something else, doesn't matter what they are. And then as long as you solve it and you get the same numbers, those are correct. So you could double check yourself that way. If it's multiple choice, check yourself that way. The only thing that you can't really check is if your variables, exponents are correct. Not necessarily true. While you're solving it, you don't really know how to check yourself because the decimals aren't the same. But when you put in your variables here, they'll tell you whether they're the same or not. Because if I had a different exponent, they wouldn't be the same. I think it's the same one. So that would help you. Any others you want to see, double check in Desmos? Anything like that? Of the 1 through 9. Great. Number 10 is not something you could really do in a calculator. You would have to know which one of these are simplified or not. So you would have to know that you could take an x out of here, so that's not simplified. You could factor the 8 down more, so that's not simplified, and you could factor the 75 down more, so that's not simplified. So the first and the last are the only ones that are in simplest form. Questions on that? Do you have this? You haven't done. And then on to the next page. So these are the same thing you were just doing, but then they have operations, adding, subtracting, multiplying, all those things. So remember that when you are adding or subtracting, they work just like terms. The inside radical or radicand needs to be the same in order to combine the numbers on the outside. So 11 would be the square root of 5, or 1 times the square root of 5. 12 would be 12 times the cube root of 9. 13 would would be 3 minus 3 times the cube root of 5, or negative 3 times the cube root of 5 plus 3. You can write that either way. You always have to make sure you double check, can any of the things be simplified, which the middle one could. 14 would be 7 minus 2 times the square root of 2. And 15 is 10x times the square root of 5 plus 2. All the ones with numbers you can double check in Desmos, double check are the decimals the same. All the ones with variables, same thing, just add the slider, make sure it's capitalized. Questions on 11 through 15? Final answer was 9a squared times the square root of 3 plus 13a times the square root of 3. So in that one, not only are you combining like radicands or radicals, but you're also combining like terms on the outside where we have the a squared and the a's. Then 17 through 20, you are multiplying. I'm going to just show this on 17, but not on the others if you do this. On the others if you want. You're multiplying the outside numbers together and the inside numbers together. And then simplifying if necessary. So the 4 times the 2 gives us the 8. The 5 times the 3 gives us the 15. It can't be simplified, so 8 times the square root of 15. 18 is 14 times the cube root of 12. 19 was 60. It ended up equaling out because 16 is a perfect square. And then 20 was 90 times the cube root of 2. Questions on any of those, 16 through 20? Any of you want to double check in Desmos or see how we would put that in Desmos? So next Thursday, the following are due. These you should be able to do because they're just solving equations, finding solutions, a lot of stuff that these can be done in Desmos. So 4A and 4B, just those are what's due next Thursday. And then if you didn't, make sure you take out your scrap sheet of paper that you were working on this with. We're going to finish this today. If you need another one, feel free to grab another one. Alright, so on your, if you haven't already, read this example. Remember, if you need highlighters, they're back there. What did we find that was important here?
She burns 12 calories per minute on the elliptical and 20 calories per minute on the treadmill. And then she burned in total per hour 676 calories. How many minutes did she spend? Is that how you say elliptical or elliptical?
Elliptical. And then let's set up our equations. So we can do variables E and E and T. I'm gonna make mine apple. And what don't we know about the elliptical and treadmill? What is
How many minutes should we?
the number of minutes for each? I was like, I messed that up.
C-A-L-E-I-C.
There we go.
And then
So then we need to set up our equations. Anyone want to take a guess as to how they would be set up?
no, I just have a question. There's
Yeah.
more than one equation?
There's always going to be more than one. I may not give you all the numbers for more than one, but there'll always be two equations. Jaden. So we're going to talk about that. It's not going to be 1, but since this is in minutes, it'll be 60. Yep. So E plus E equals 60. The 1 hour is kind of tricky. It throws you off. Go ahead.
12 E plus 10 T equals 676.
So the last two we did one by substitution, one by elimination. This one we're going to do by graphing. So if you want to have Desmos pulled up, you can, because I'm going to be doing that in there to save time. So just like we did for the quick check, these cannot be E and T, they need to be X and Y. So I'm just going to make E, X, and T, Y. If you want to rewrite them both, that's fine. I'm not going to do that. And then put both of these equations into Desmos and see where they are. So X plus Y equals 60. And 12x plus 10y equals 676. It is not. As long as if you make this y, you make this y, if you switch these, then it won't work. So then she spent 38 minutes on the elliptical, and that's really all we need to know. So notice that 22 was up there, but that's there to trick you. Now, we could solve this next one, but because it's a maze and there's only one way to go, we kind of already know the answer. So we're going to skip the work for this one. If you want extra practice, I would advise doing that work later. I believe the answer key has me doing each one. I don't know if I did the others also. So then read this next one. Oh, we're just skipping over that second. Yeah, because there's only one. And what did we find that is important there? Yep. And raise. Okay. So 4 poinsettia, 6 threes, and raise 252. So then our variables would be what? Jaden? Sure. If you like other variables and you want to use those, feel free. They don't have to match. Unless it says specifically use these variables, you can use whatever you want. And then these represent what? What about the poinsettia don't we know? How much they cost? The cost of a, I can't go over and the cost of a then we need 2 equations. Jaden, go for it.
7 plus 3 equals 200. 4p plus 6w.
The ones that give you 6 numbers are the easiest because you have all the information. Just put it into the equation. Right? We have gone through the full circle, so now we have all the options again. How do you want to solve this substitution, elimination, graphing? Okay. That would probably be the easiest. So then we are looking for how much is the poinsettia. So if we get rid of the W, then we will have that cost. So to get rid of W, we would need to make them the same. How could we make them the same? So not divide, but we would multiply what by what? You're on the right track. Make them both 6. How would you make them both 6?
3 times 6.
There we go. Multiply this one by 2. You have different options though. You could have multiplied the top one by 4, the bottom one by 2, the first one by 6, the bottom one by 3. You have so many different options for this.
Okay, so you can just multiply one of them,
Yes. It depends on what you're trying to get to be the same.
but it's possible.
But you're allowed to. You're allowed to.
Okay,
The rules allow you to do that.
Okay.
So we have 14p plus 6w equals 402.
Mhm.
I was not talking out loud. And then to get rid of w, would we add or subtract? So 4p minus 14p would give us negative 10p. These would cancel. 252 minus 402 would give us 150. Negative 150. And if we divide, I don't know what it is. We would get 15 what? Dollars. Which should be one of our answer choices. So that tells us the direction we're going to go. This should look familiar because we've done problems like this. So back when we were solving word problems, we started substitution without really talking about it, saying it was substitution. So what's important in this? What is
The length of a rectangle is 1 inch less than 3 times its width. If the perimeter of the rectangle is 54 inches times the length.
So let's set this up. Right. They're talking about length and width, so we can use this L and W. You don't have to define them because they're length and width, but it is just good practice. And then remember that these are weird because we have to remember the perimeter formula. So let's first talk about length. How would we set up that equation? W. And this equals length. So then for your other equation, this is one you kind of have to know. Your perimeter we know is 54, and our perimeter equation is 2L plus 2W. So it's like, it's not given to you, but because it says perimeter, you have to know that's the formula for it. So how it is set up now, we just elimination. Would substitution or graphing work better for this?
Not that, but so it's
substitution. So we can take this and put it in for L. You would have 54 equals 2 times 3W minus 1 plus 2W. Do you solve this one later? And then we can start to solve. Yes. Hold it on. You did that way faster than that. 6W minus 2W plus 2W. Say that one more time. Yeah, I was just doing the work for that. So 8W minus 2 plus 2. And then 7, what unit of measurement do we have? Finding the width is great, but we need the length, so we need to go back and find our length. Now I think 7 is 1, a little less. So then 20 is most likely going to be our answer, since 7 is not. But just to double check. Kind of slow down, it's not letting me. So then 20 is the way we're going to go. And you can start reading that one. What's important here? Anything else important? Questions? Okay. How many pro response questions are So then we need 2 variables. What do we want to call them? Study. S and M short. If you want to use X and Y, that would also work. And what don't we know about these? Jaden?
And more for short answer questions. And for multiple choice.
take a guess as to how we would set up either equation? Jayla, go for it.
X plus n equals 42. 2n, 2 plus 3x.
No, we were the 2m and then 3s equals
100.
So then we just did substitution, elimination. We'll do this one by graphing again. So we can change these to x and y. I just have a habit of always putting whatever's first as x, but if you want to change it, that's fine. And putting those into Desmos. And 29. So which is the answer we're looking for? So we have not ended yet. But that means that we're done. Because it's either going to end or it's going to keep going, but then it has to end, so we'll basically know the answers. So almost there. If it goes here, we know the answers. If it goes here, we know the answers. If it ends, then we're done. So this should be the last one that we're going to. Because it can't go back up, it has to end. So read through that, find what's important. What is important here? One more thing. So the 820 and the 14 are going to be our total. But let's find a variable first. So what do we want to call our variables for this? Okay. You want to call them B and L, that was also fine, but for X and Y work. What do these represent? What don't we know? Okay, so number of hours for each, so we can say number of hours Ben drove and number of hours Amanda drove. Then we need two equations. Anyone wants to take a guess for one of them? Jaden, you could do one. Otis, you could do the other. Okay, I'm going to use our X and Y, but if you use L and B, that's fine. And then Otis together.
60x plus 56y equals 80.
So then, do we want to solve this? Substitution, elimination, graphing. Okay. And we are looking for how many hours Landon drove? So if we substitute, if we solve for X and put that in, we should end up with just Y. Let's solve for X for this one. Or 14 minus X, either or. Put that back into Y. So 16x plus 56 times negative x plus 14 equals 810.
60x minus 56x plus 784 equals 810.
712.
And then you subtract 784 from both sides. And then you would also,
I just wait 1 second. Sorry. We can also combine our like terms.
yeah.
So if we subtract this, we get
9. No, 36. I don't know why I said 36. Sorry.
it's okay.
Then you divide
When you
by
divide
4, and then you get
So Landon drove 9 hours. Long time. I used to, because my school was in North Carolina, driving back home was like a 10-hour trip. So I knew that, yes.
I thought X equals 10.
So that was.
I was going to say.
So and what I said was still opposite. I tried to get the right one. I think I was thinking X. Okay. Well, you know it's not 9. So it's either 5 or 4. So let's put that back in. Y equals.
So it's minus 9. 14 minus 9. Oh, it's 5.
It
It's
is
9 plus
5.
5. 14. No, it's 4. No, it's not. Let it be 4.
Well,
No. Sorry.
you drove 5, but this is the last one we're going to solve because we know all the answers.
Yeah, the only other answer is.
Now, for the remainder of class, I know you don't have a whole lot of time. You could go back and do the ones we didn't do. You could do Khan Academy. I'm going to give you your review because your quiz is next class. You could be working on any of those things. Work together. Use your notes. Let me know what questions you have.